Have you ever looked at your blood pressure monitor and wondered why the numbers are still higher than you expected, even though you've been taking your medication every single day? For millions of adults over the age of 60, this situation is surprisingly common. Every morning begins the same way. You wake up, pour a glass of water, swallow your blood pressure pill, and feel confident that you've done everything your doctor asked you to do. Yet weeks later, the readings on your monitor barely seem to change. Some days they're even higher. It's frustrating. It can also be frightening. The first thought many people have is, maybe my medication isn't working anymore. But in many cases, that isn't the real problem. Amlodipine, Losartan, and Lisinopril are among the most widely prescribed blood pressure medications in the world. They've helped millions of people reduce their risk of heart attack, stroke, kidney disease, and heart failure. When used correctly, they can be extremely effective. The surprising part is that these medications don't work in isolation. Their success depends on what you do during the other 23 hours of your day. A seemingly harmless habit, something you may have repeated for years without thinking, can quietly interfere with your treatment, not by canceling the medication completely, but by making it less effective than it could be. That's exactly what we're going to explore today. By the end of this video, you'll understand 7 common mistakes that may be making it harder to control your blood pressure. More importantly, you'll learn practical, evidence-informed steps you can discuss with your healthcare provider to help your treatment work as intended. And stay with me until the final mistake, because it's one that surprises many people. It doesn't involve food, exercise, or even the medication itself. Yet it's responsible for countless unnecessary blood pressure fluctuations every year. Before we begin, one important reminder. This video is for educational purposes only. Never stop, change, or adjust your prescription medication without speaking to the healthcare professional who prescribed it. The goal today isn't to create fear, it's to help you better understand how your daily routine may influence your treatment. Now, let's start with a mistake that's easy to overlook because it often feels completely harmless. Mistake number 7, treating blood pressure medication like a vitamin Imagine two neighbors. Both are 70 years old. Both were diagnosed with high blood pressure within a few months of each other. Both were prescribed the same medication. 6 months later, one person's blood pressure is consistently well controlled, while the other continues struggling with unpredictable readings. Why? One important difference is consistency. Unlike pain medicine, blood pressure medication usually doesn't create an immediate feeling that tells you it's working. You don't swallow a tablet and suddenly feel your arteries relaxing. That's one reason hypertension is often called the silent condition. You may feel perfectly normal whether your blood pressure is 125/75 or 165/95. Because there are often no obvious symptoms, it's easy to become casual about treatment. Some people take their medication at breakfast one day, at lunchtime the next, and before bed the following evening. Others miss a dose because they're traveling, visiting family, or simply become distracted by daily life. It doesn't seem like a big deal. But consistency matters. Many blood pressure medications are designed to maintain relatively steady levels in your body over time. Taking them at dramatically different times or missing doses altogether can make it harder to keep blood pressure consistently controlled. That doesn't mean one late dose automatically causes danger. It simply means that building a reliable daily routine gives your treatment the best chance to work as intended. One simple strategy is to connect your medication with an activity you almost never forget. For example, brushing your teeth, preparing breakfast, or feeding your pet. Small habits linked together are often easier to remember than relying on memory alone. If you ever realize you've missed a dose, don't automatically take an extra tablet. Different medications have different instructions, so follow the advice provided by your pharmacist or healthcare provider. Now, here's something interesting. Many people believe that once they've taken today's pill, everything else they do throughout the day becomes less important. Unfortunately, that's another common misunderstanding, because the next mistake begins before most people have even finished breakfast. Mistake number 6, letting hidden sodium undo your progress. When most people hear the word salt, they immediately think of the salt shaker sitting on the dinner table. But for many adults, the biggest source of sodium isn't the salt they add. It's the salt that's already hidden inside everyday foods: canned soups, frozen dinners, processed meats, restaurant meals, packaged sauces, breakfast sandwiches. Even foods that don't taste particularly salty can contain surprisingly large amounts of sodium. Why does this matter? Sodium encourages the body to hold on to water. More fluid inside your blood vessels means greater pressure pushing against the vessel walls. That's exactly what blood pressure medication is trying to help manage. Imagine trying to empty water from a bathtub while someone keeps turning the faucet back on. The drain may still be working, but it's forced to work much harder. That's a simple way to think about the relationship between medication and excessive sodium intake. The medication continues doing its job, but your daily eating pattern may be working against it. This doesn't mean you have to eliminate every enjoyable meal or become afraid of food. Instead, start becoming curious. Read nutrition labels. Compare products. Choose fresh foods more often when possible. Simple swaps like preparing homemade soup instead of canned soup, or seasoning food with herbs instead of extra salt, can make a meaningful difference over time. Remember, controlling blood pressure rarely depends on one dramatic decision. It usually comes from dozens of small choices repeated consistently. And speaking of small choices, the next mistake is one that millions of coffee drinkers make every single morning without ever wondering whether timing could matter. Mistake number 5, drinking coffee at the wrong time. For many people, the morning doesn't truly begin until that first cup of coffee. The aroma, the warmth, the familiar routine. Coffee is one of the most popular beverages in the world, and for many adults, there's no reason to give it up. In fact, moderate coffee consumption has been associated with several potential health benefits in many people. But here's where timing becomes important. Some people wake up, pour their coffee, place their blood pressure medication beside the mug, and swallow both together without giving it a second thought. Does this automatically make your medication ineffective? No, but caffeine can temporarily raise blood pressure in some individuals, especially those who aren't regular coffee drinkers or who are particularly sensitive to caffeine. If you're checking your blood pressure shortly after drinking coffee, you may see a reading that's higher than expected, not necessarily because your medication has failed, but because caffeine can have a short-term effect on blood pressure. That's why many healthcare professionals recommend avoiding caffeine for a period before checking your blood pressure at home. If your numbers seem unpredictable, ask your healthcare provider whether adjusting the timing of your coffee or your home blood pressure measurements might give a clearer picture of how well your treatment is working. You don't necessarily need to give up coffee. Sometimes a small adjustment in timing is all that's needed. Now let's move to another habit that quietly affects millions of people. Mistake number 4, measuring your blood pressure. Incorrectly imagine stepping onto a bathroom scale while holding a heavy suitcase. The number wouldn't accurately represent your body weight. The same principle applies to blood pressure. The way you measure it matters almost as much as the number itself. Many people check their blood pressure immediately after climbing the stairs, walking the dog, arguing on the phone, or rushing home from the grocery store. Others sit with crossed legs. Some talk during the measurement. Others place the cuff over thick clothing. Every one of these small details can affect the reading. Blood pressure naturally changes throughout the day. It rises during physical activity. It changes with stress. It changes after meals. It even changes while you're talking. That's completely normal. For the most reliable home reading, try to sit quietly for about 5 minutes before measuring. Rest your back against a chair. Keep both feet flat on the floor. Support your arms so the cuff is roughly at heart level. Avoid talking until the measurement is complete. Many healthcare providers also recommend taking 2 readings about 1 minute apart and recording both. One unusually high reading doesn't always mean your treatment has stopped working. It's the overall pattern that matters. And that's exactly why keeping a simple blood pressure diary can be so valuable. Bring those readings to your next appointment. They often tell a much clearer story than a single number measured in a busy clinic. Now let's talk about something that's much less obvious. It's hiding inside medicine cabinets all across the country. Mistake number 3, forgetting about over-the-counter medicines. Imagine waking up with a sore back after gardening, or developing a headache after a long day. Without thinking much about it, you reach into the medicine cabinet and take an over-the-counter pain reliever. For many people, that's the end of the story. But not all pain relievers affect the body in the same way. Certain non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, often called NSAIDs, can influence kidney function and fluid balance. In some people, frequent use may also make blood pressure more difficult to control. This doesn't mean everyone should avoid these medications. It doesn't mean they're unsafe when used appropriately. It simply means they're another piece of the overall picture. If you're taking blood pressure medication regularly and find yourself needing pain medicine often, it's worth mentioning that to your healthcare provider. Sometimes there may be another treatment option that's more appropriate for your particular medical history. The important message isn't fear. It's awareness. Many people never think to mention non-prescription medications during a doctor's appointment because they assume only prescription drugs matter. In reality, every medication prescription or over-the-counter can become part of the conversation. Now, here's something many people find surprising. The next mistake has nothing to do with medicine, nothing to do with food, nothing to do with exercise, yet it quietly keeps blood pressure elevated in countless people every single day. Mistake number 2, living with constant stress isn't just something you feel, it's something your body responds to. When your brain perceives stress, your nervous system prepares you to react. Your heart beats faster, stress hormones increase, blood vessels become narrower, blood pressure rises. In the short term, this response is completely normal. It's part of human survival. The problem develops when stress becomes chronic. Financial worries, poor sleep, caring for a loved one, health concerns, loneliness. These ongoing pressures can make it more difficult to keep blood pressure within a healthy range. No medication can completely erase the effects of chronic stress. That's why lifestyle habits remain such an important partner to medical treatment. This doesn't mean you need an expensive wellness program. Sometimes the most effective habits are also the simplest. A short walk after dinner, calling a friend, reading quietly before bed instead of watching stressful news, practicing slow, steady breathing for 5 minutes. These small routines won't replace your medication, but together they may help create an environment where your treatment can work more effectively. And now we've reached the final mistake. Ironically, it's also the one that many doctors say has the biggest long-term impact on blood pressure control. Mistake number 1, believing medication can replace a healthy lifestyle. Let's finish with the mistake that has the biggest long-term impact, and ironically, it's also the easiest to fall into. Imagine 2 people who both have high blood pressure. Both are prescribed the same medication. Both start treatment on the same day. 1 year later, one person's blood pressure is consistently within the target range, while the other continues struggling despite increasing medication doses. What made the difference? In many cases, it wasn't a stronger prescription, it was a stronger routine. One person viewed medication as a partner, the other viewed it as a substitute. This is one of the biggest misconceptions surrounding blood pressure treatment. Amlodipine, Losartan, Lisinopril, these medications are powerful tools, but they're not designed to erase the effects of poor sleep, excessive sodium, chronic stress, physical inactivity, smoking, or heavy alcohol use. Think of medication as lowering one part of your cardiovascular risk. The rest depends on the decisions you make every day. That's actually encouraging news, because while you can't change your age, you can't change your family history, you can influence many of the factors that determine how well your treatment works. Let's look at 5 simple habits that often make the biggest difference. Habit 1. Move more than you think you need. To many adults believe exercise only matters if they spend an hour in the gym. That's simply not true. Regular movement throughout the day helps keep blood vessels flexible, supports healthy circulation, and improves how efficiently your heart pumps blood. Even something as simple as a brisk walk after dinner may support healthy blood pressure when done consistently. If walking isn't comfortable because of arthritis or balance problems, chair exercises or light resistance training may also be appropriate. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is consistency. Habit 2. Protect your sleep. Sleep is often overlooked, but your cardiovascular system notices every restless night. During healthy sleep, blood pressure naturally falls. Doctors sometimes call this nighttime dipping. If poor sleep becomes chronic, those normal patterns may become disrupted. Over months and years, that may place additional strain on your heart and blood vessels. Creating a simple bedtime routine, reducing screen time before sleep, keeping a regular bedtime, these small habits may benefit far more than your energy levels. Habit 3. Maintain a healthy weight. This isn't about appearance. It's about physiology. Excess body weight means your heart has to pump blood through a larger network of tissue. That increases workload. Even modest weight loss can improve blood pressure for many people. You don't need crash diets. You don't need miracle supplements. Steady, sustainable progress almost always wins. Habit 4. Don't ignore follow-up appointments. Many people feel fine after starting medication. Their prescription gets refilled, life gets busy, months pass, sometimes years. Meanwhile, kidney function, potassium levels, blood pressure patterns, all can change. Regular follow-up appointments allow your healthcare provider to evaluate whether your current medication is still the best choice. Sometimes no changes are needed. Sometimes small adjustments make a significant difference. That's why routine monitoring matters. Habit 5. Know your numbers. Here's a simple question. Do you know your average blood pressure over the last month? Not yesterday's reading, not last year's appointment, your average. Many people don't. Keeping a home blood pressure log gives both you and your healthcare provider much better information than relying on one reading taken during a stressful office visit. Patterns matter far more than isolated numbers. A story that illustrates the difference. Let me tell you about someone we'll call James. James was 72 years old. Every morning he faithfully took his Losartan. He rarely missed a dose. Yet his blood pressure remained stubbornly high. Naturally, he assumed the medication had stopped working. During a routine appointment, his doctor asked a few simple questions. How often do you check your blood pressure? When I remember. Do you use over-the-counter pain medication? Almost every day for my back. How much sodium do you think you eat? I'm not really sure. Do you exercise? Not much since I retired. Instead of immediately changing the prescription. His healthcare team suggested several small lifestyle adjustments. He began checking nutrition labels, reduced processed foods, walked 20 minutes most evenings, used home blood pressure monitoring correctly, reviewed all of his medications, including non-prescription ones, with his pharmacist. 3 months later, his average blood pressure had improved. His doctor was pleased. Most importantly, James realized something. The medication hadn't failed him. He simply hadn't understood how much his daily habits influenced the medication's effectiveness. Final thoughts. If you remember only one message from today's video, let it be this. Blood pressure medication isn't a replacement for healthy habits. It's one part of a much bigger strategy. Amlodipine, Losartan, Lisinopril, each works differently. Each has its own benefits, and each can be highly effective when paired with consistent lifestyle choices and regular medical follow-up. Don't stop your medication because of something you watched online. Instead, use today's information as a starting point for a conversation with your healthcare provider. Ask questions. Review your medications. Track your blood pressure. And remember that small improvements, repeated day after day, often lead to the biggest long-term results. If you found today's video helpful, we'd love to hear from you. Which of the 7 mistakes surprised you the most? Share your experience in the comments below. Your story may encourage someone else to take that first important step toward better blood pressure control. If you enjoy practical, evidence-informed videos about healthy aging, heart health, nutrition, medications, and living well after 60, consider subscribing so you don't miss future episodes. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself, stay informed, and we'll see you in the next video.